So, what if I told you that one of the most powerful people in our world isn't a person at all? Well, today, we are going deep into the bizarre and frankly unbelievable story of how a legal fiction, basically an idea on a piece of paper, managed to get the rights of a living, breathing human being. It's a story that involves colonial empires, a really convenient philosophical loophole, and, well, what some people have called a crime committed in plain sight, right inside the U.S. Supreme Court. So the big question is, how on earth did this actually happen? Okay, first, let's just get the basics down. On one side, you've got a natural person. That's you, that's me. We're mortal, we have a conscience, and, we can be held accountable. We can even be sent to jail. But then you have this other thing, what the law calls an artificial person, a corporation. It's immortal, it has no real conscience, and you definitely can't throw it in a jail cell. These differences, they are absolutely fundamental to this story. And the legal trick that makes all this possible is called corporate personhood. Think of it like a kind of legal alchemy. It takes a group of investors and magically transforms them into a single entity, a body corporate that can do things just like a person. But to really understand how this artificial person got so incredibly powerful, we have to go way back to a time when corporations weren't just businesses, they were empires. Yeah, the first really powerful corporations we see in history, they weren't designed to sell you stuff. They were built as tools of colonialism. Their model wasn't the free market, their model was empire building, plain and simple. This all kicks off right around the start of the 17th century. You've got European kings and queens issuing these things called royal charters. And these charters created something totally new, entities like the British and Dutch East India Companies. And let's be super clear, these were not just companies. They were basically corporate sovereigns, acting like an arm of the state, but with a profit motive. And just look at the kind of power they had. We're not talking about just getting a monopoly on trade routes. These charters gave them the authority to build their own private armies, to literally wage war, and to govern huge territories. I mean, they were out there mapping and seizing land, kicking people out, all with the government's official stamp of approval. And this is the crucial link you have to see. That legacy is baked into the DNA of the modern multinational corporation. That drive for extraction, for control over resources, for wielding power that feels like a government. It never went away. It just evolved. But see, if you're going to accumulate that much stuff, you need more than just brute force. You need a philosophical argument. You need a way to make hoarding endless amounts of wealth seem, natural and totally okay. And this is where the philosopher John Locke comes in. He had this idea, when you mix your labor with something in nature, it becomes your property. Great, but he put a limit on it. You should only take as much as you can actually use before it spoils. But then came the genius loophole. What about money? Gold coins don't go bad, right? Locke argued that by agreeing to use money, we all kind of silently agreed that it was okay for some people to pile up gigantic fortunes. And just like that, the ethical speed bumps were gone. And this idea, this justification through a clever loophole, brings us right to the main event of our story, a moment in American law that really feels less like a court case and more like a heist. So picture this. The year is 1886. The Supreme Court is hearing what, on the surface, looks like a pretty boring tax dispute between Santa Clara County in California and a big railroad company. But hiding inside the seemingly simple case was a legal Trojan horse that was about to change everything. Now, to get what happens next, you have to know what a headnote is. It's basically just a little summary that a court clerk writes at the top of a legal opinion. It's kind of like the blurb on the back of a book. It tells you what it's about, but it's not actually part of the story. And the most important part, it has absolutely zero legal force. It's just a note. And this is where the whole thing gets wild. The court's actual ruling, it was super narrow. It just settled the tax thing. But the clerk's headnote, the summary, declared something completely different and way more radical. It claimed the court had decided that corporations are persons under the 14th Amendment, an amendment created to protect the rights of formerly enslaved people. This claim was nowhere to be found in the actual judge's decision. Nowhere. So you have to be asking, who wrote this game-changing, legally meaningless summary? The court clerk, a guy named J.C. Bancroft Davis, who, get this, just so happened to be a former president of a railroad company. So not exactly a neutral party here, right? He was an industry insider, and he just slipped this huge idea into the official record. And here's the kicker.
Even though that headnote was basically just an editorial comment, a little post-it note with no legal power, future lawyers and even judges started citing it in their arguments and rulings as if it were the law. A complete fiction written by a clerk with a massive conflict of interest basically laundered its way into becoming legal precedent. It's insane.
And once that fiction was treated as fact, well, the consequences were huge. It helped create the world we live in now, a world where these artificial people often have more power and way fewer responsibilities than actual, real people.
What you end up with is this deeply lopsided power dynamic. Corporations got constitutional rights, but again, you can't put them in jail or shame them into doing the right thing. They can use those rights to push communities around, to pollute, and to dodge accountability. And according to the sources we're looking at, this imbalance, this wasn't some mistake. It was the whole point.
So when you trace this whole history, from the old colonial charters to Locke's convenient loophole, all the way to a clerk's little lie, the conclusion you reach is pretty stark. Corporate personhood isn't just some dry legal doctrine. You could see it as a monument to institutionalized fraud.
All of which leaves us with one pretty unsettling question to think about. In a system that gives immortal, unjailable, artificial things the rights of human beings, if a corporation is legally a person, then what are we?